Hi there. So continuing with the analysis of the upload Crystalline Samhain 1111 Stargate, November 11th, 2019, which I have entitled the Krystal Stargate series. So I'm continuing to go through the analysis of this transmission. So we were talking in the last part, we were talking about the inner technology being in harmony, regardless of physical symptoms or systems, bodily systems that appear to be out of sync. So then I went on to say, the inner technology, that is the plasmic field that runs around, outside and within your bodies, is beyond a linear time and exists in multiple timelines simultaneously. So I did sort of touch on this in the last part, but I'll just go through that again briefly. The inner technology, so this is the endocrine system, the neurological system, the pineal gland, all of the aspects of you that are like radio waves, radio receivers. They transmit energy and information. The inner technology, that is the plasmic field. So it's a field of plasma that runs around, so it runs all around you, all around your body, outside, so it's outside of your body, and within. So it's all around you, outside of you, and within you. It is you. It is the true you. And it's beyond linear time. So it does not, it is not subject to linear time like the physical body is. And one can move into situations where the physical body isn't subject to linear time as much or at all, if one can work in deep magical ways with the plasmic field. That's a whole other subject, and something that's not kind of where we are as a collective. It's where some very rare individuals are. It's not really where we are as a collective, but it's where we're going. It's what we're going to experience, whether it's in this lifetime or another. I mean, there are such wonderful experiences to be had in a soul's journey within different stages of incarnation. So it's something that is there for us, and potentially it can occur within the third dimension, although you wouldn't be third dimensional, but there are third dimensional incarnated individuals who are able to work with the plasmic field and move beyond linear time. So this would be called anti-aging, the reversing of aging, or it would be immortality or extreme longevity, that sort of thing. So within your bodies is beyond linear time and exists in multiple timelines simultaneously. So that plasmic field that runs around you, outside of you and within you, exists in multiple timelines simultaneously. And we are all, as starseeds, starting to feel that and what it means. And the way that we interpret it, or the way the Nine teach me to interpret it, the way many of us interpret it, is as the field of the DNA. It's the DNA structure that is transforming and moving from the physical experience of experiencing one timeline into the physical experience of experiencing multiple timelines. That's what's happening to us as we awaken this DNA structure. That's the experience we go through. The Nine continue to say it is an information field, the keys of which are stored within your skeletal systems. And it is at this time of the Samhain Gateway 1111 merge from 7th of November to 13th of November, peaking or culminating on the 11th of November, that you are most easily able to access the key codes within the skeletal systems and move them from stored bone memories into current and cosmic information. So I'll just go through this. So this this field, this plasmic field that runs around, outside and within your bodies, is an information field. So it's plasma, it radiates, it transmits, it receives. It's an aerial, a camera, a computer, it's a television set, it's a microscope, it's all of these things, if you use technology as a metaphor. but it's an information field. So it's like a data system or stream, like a data system that can be retrieved from. So you can move into a data retrieval system and retrieve this data. It's an information field. Now, the keys to this information field on a physical level are stored within our skeletal systems, within the very skeleton of our system. The keys to the information stored there when we're born, and they remain stored there through each incarnation, even though we're moving through different skeletal systems. That's because the bone is like a crystalline structure. And you remember I was saying in the last part how a crystal, you can program a crystal to hold information and to assist you with things. You can retrieve information from a crystal in an energetic sense. And this is done simply through telepathy with the crystal, through placing visualizations from your mind into the crystal. Well, it's the same thing. The bone, the skeletal system, is a crystal. It's a crystalline structure, and information can be received from it. So it's an information storage system. So it's at the time of the Samhain Gateway. So this 31st of October, peaking in its full manifestation on the 7th of November, into the 11/11 merge on the 11th of November, into the 13th of November, when that particular Stargate sort of doesn't close, but gently changes form, if you will, peaking, as I said, on the 11th of November, the 11/11, that you are most easily able to access the key codes within the skeletal systems. Why? Why are you most easily able to access these key codes at that time? Well, this is because of the crystal Stargate. This is because of the synchronization between the cosmic reality and what is going on within you due to the collective consciousness of humanity and the consciousness field that they hold and they create, as explained in the first few parts of this analysis. So that's why this is so profoundly relevant to the December solstice, because it's another Stargate. So you can do this again. You're always able to move into this storage system and awaken it. Remember, I was saying earlier in one of these parts to this analysis, how the awareness of something doesn't come into the collective field until, on a collective level, until by the time it would reach critical mass, it no longer can be hijacked by the service to self factions. That's the epiphany of the skeletal system and how important it is and what it is and what it does, and the fact that it's a storage system and all the technology around it. Basically, the empowerment of how profoundly important and significant and amazing your human body is. Now, we've always known this, and in small groups there has been an awareness of the skeletal system within individuals, but this is really coming into critical mass now with the awareness, and it's too late for the service to self factions to be able to prevent that awareness and prevent what that awareness creates, which is this empowerment and the very awakening of the DNA field into its full flower of life formation, the 144,000 template, and out of this reduced two-stranded double helix. It's too late for this to be prevented because it's already happened. It's already happened and is happening, because when you move into it, it's a non-linear process. So one could say it's happened, it's happening, and it's going to happen, and they'd all be true, because the one moment is not linear. It's a simultaneous merge of all moments, and we're experiencing that now within our physical realities, which is why we are becoming multidimensional and why we're able to access the perspectives of all these different dimensions and these different aspects of ourselves and these different timelines that the different selves experience. So this understanding of what the skeletal system is as a storage system, a key to an information field, is coming online now at this time, and that is accessible during all of these Stargates, which is why I've called this the Krystal Stargate series, because it will be relevant to all Stargates. This same information is occurring in a cyclical, spiraling formation, and anyone who comes to this information in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, it's still appropriate and relevant for you, because you are going through a Stargate, a series of Stargates as an individual ascending being, creating your own Stargate. You're going through Stargate ascension. That's what this is, going through this sine wave peak of energy and moving back into integration within the third dimension, integration of the shadow, back up to this peak of inspiration, empowerment and creativity, and back down into integration in this spiraling formation, in accordance and in alignment with the DNA configuration itself. So the keys of which are stored within your skeletal systems. It's at this time of this Stargate, specifically this Stargate the transmission was talking about, but as I said, this encompasses all Stargates and the one coming up, which is 21st of December, the solstice in December. That you are most easily able to access the key codes within the skeletal systems, and then you move them from stored bone memories into current and cosmic information. So they're always stored. And as I was saying in one of the earlier parts to this, that was the suppression. The service to self factions, groups that is a out of the third dimensional structure. It's a fourth dimensional structure as well. That intention from that intelligent field full of beings, however you want to describe it, was to reduce the full 144,000 template 12-stranded DNA field into a double helix with just the 2 strands. So all of those memories and knowings were stored within bone. They weren't taken away. They were not annihilated, removed, destroyed. It's not possible for that to be the case. They were suppressed and went into the skeletal system. This is why you will find, if you are doing something like yoga or some other movement that's working the skeletal system and the muscles simultaneously, you'll find you can go away and start thinking emotionally, and trauma starts coming up and memories start coming up. That's because you've physically worked the bone structures. You've actually worked with the skeletal system. That's why it's so good to incorporate movement. It doesn't have to be full on exercise. You don't have to be running on a treadmill or lifting weights. There are many ways to gently move, but you do need to move your body in order to assist the skeletal system to work with the Stargates to release this information. So what you do is you access the key codes within the skeletal systems and move them from the stored bone memories. So that is the repression. And it's not really repression, because you see, the stored bone system was a fail-safe. That's why everything went into the skeletal system. It was a fail-safe for the hijacking of the original 144,000 template, the 12-stranded DNA template. As that was reduced and couldn't be taken away, it was suppressed, it actually stored itself within bone. And the storage, the best place to store it in bone, because bones are crystal, the awareness of having that stored within your inner crystalline structure, your crystalline matrix, which is within the skeletal system, the awareness of it brings it out. And so the suppression wasn't just the suppression of the memories themselves, it was the suppression of where they were stored. And they were stored within bone, but being stored within bone and in the skull as well, which is so important, that was a fail-safe. That was a crystalline storage structure. If the service to self factions had their way, they would have taken that or been able to reduce that that infinite helix structure into the double helix into a place that was inaccessible. or at least give them time to do what they need to do and further their agenda and make our memories and knowings and that higher infinite helix structure inaccessible. But it's never been inaccessible. It's always been accessible because it's been within our very bodies. And this is why the crystal skulls are so important, because there are 12 actual crystal skulls that have been created as a memory structure, a memory trigger formed in matter, so that when you see the crystal skull, you awaken to the memory of what it is. And the empowerment to that is the 13th crystal skull, which is the skull of the human being. That's the crystal skull. Another reason why this is the crystal Stargate with a K. So sometimes crystal is spelt with a C to describe the crystal with a C. Crystal with a K describes the crystalline structure and the crystal as a code. And why do we use a K? And the reason for that is the 9 try to act or aim to present triggers to activate flame letter, cosmic alphabet, language of light within. And it's done through sounds, and this is information that I'm not given in its completeness yet. It's information that's new and incoming, that I'm working with right now. But the sound K, that rather than the K made by a C, and the visual picture of K rather than C, is a memory trigger to the true Christed energy. And one of the very first sounds within cosmic music of the spheres, cosmic sound, was K, K, K. So as I said, this is information that's new to me. So but that's the reason why it's a K rather than a C sometimes, because it's more intensely coded when you use the K. It's the same thing as to when the 9 use words like cometh, or they will say things like brethren. These are really old language words. They're not words we use anymore in our current language, really. They use modern language too for metaphor, but there are more powerful, profound, multidimensional codes within, and they are little codices, as in a codex, as in a book or a library, rather than a sentence or a word, that are more activating and more triggering, even if you don't understand what they are within the processing and the understanding. You feel that, you will catch that code. So there are many ways to shift the key codes within the skeletal systems and move them from stored bone memory into current and cosmic information. So it comes up as information. So it's coming up from within the DNA field, within the bone structure itself, within the blood as well. The blood is the transportation system, and it's in all the cells of the body, but the bone is the crystal, is the storage fail-safe system, and it comes up into our awareness. So the 9 go on to say, this information system runs through you now as a river of light. Indeed, this is exactly what this is. The crystal river of your very meridian system that flows into the crystal river, true dragon lines of the earth grid, and that which you know as Schumann resonance. So this information system that is around, within, and outside of your body, that is an information field, the keys of which are stored within your skeletal systems. And when you access the key codes during these crystal Stargate portal moments, then you move the stored memories within the skeletal systems and move them from stored bone memories into current and cosmic information. And the information system, the system itself, runs through you now as a river of light. It's like a river running through you. It's a plasma river. It's like liquid plasma running through your body and through your system. And the 9 say, indeed, this is exactly what this is. So they use a river as a metaphor, a crystal river a river of light as a metaphor, and then they explain to you that that metaphor is exactly what it is. It's a crystal river of your very meridian system. So the meridian system within the body, which is like it's like a grid of energy. And if you go and research acupuncture or acupressure points and things like TFT and EFT and that sort of energy psychology, you're working with the mind and with that crystal river at the same time. So the meridian system is like an energy system, an energy grid, and it flows into the crystal river, true dragon lines of the earth grid. So the earth, the planet, has a meridian system as well that is also an energy grid, and it joins to ours. So if you've seen that film, The Avatar, where you've got all that light going through the planet and going into the beings on the planet, that's what it's like. That is a huge memory trigger. Watching the film Avatar and seeing that, there would be a great many starseeds feeling all sorts of emotions watching that film, because it's true. It's how it is. It's not expressed so profoundly as it is on the planet in Avatar, but it's real. And that is a memory trigger. Watching that film, you'll just know that something about that film is right and that you're connected to it somehow. And it brings up a lot of emotion and a lot of sadness as well when you watch that film, because you are then reminded of where you are not. You are in a third dimensional planet that is not like your true home, which is a planet like in Avatar. But you still have the system. You brought it with you. You brought it with you in your skeletal system, and you stored all of the information within the crystalline matrix, in the cellular structure within the bone. And now with these stargates, which is a cosmic meridian, a cosmic grid of energy, you're connecting with all of these grid points, these node points, every time that a stargate occurs, and drawing up this information, which is why things are just so profound at this time. And that's the reason why the Nine brought forward this information, and why I decided to do an analysis of this, hence the fact also that I was asked to do so by several people, but also because what the Nine and I want to do here is explain to you why it's so intense and profound during the Stargate. What does it all mean? How is it all related? And you will go away after listening to this and start to experience this knowing yourself and have this resonation within you, or you may not. You may think it doesn't resonate. Either way, it will trigger you into some kind of exploration that is personal to you and unique to you. So the true dragon lines of the earth grid are, well, the earth grid, the ley lines, the energy lines of the earth. And now this was another system that was hijacked. Obviously, we had our own personal organic meridian grid system, not hijacked as such, but suppressed, as in the knowledge of it, the awareness of it, and the way to work with it and the way to activate it was suppressed, because the service to self groups knew how important it was, and how much of an awakening would occur if everyone knew about this. So it was hidden, suppressed, and presented as something to ridicule, as in, you don't have an energy system like that. And it's, and even now in modern mainstream medicine, it's not really recognized in a very big way. It's still moved into a place of ignorance in a lot of mainstream medicine. You do have a recognition of acupuncture and similar, so it's kind of creeping in a little bit, and it is there somewhat. Obviously, if you are a starseed, you will be working with this. So any practitioner you go and see for healing, if you do want to see a mainstream practitioner, go that route if you want to, but I would always suggest seeing an alternative practitioner as well, who understands the energy system, because that's where the true healing is and the true awakening is. So the dragon lines of the earth, which is the earth grid, was also hijacked as well, in ways like there are ways to enhance the energy system of the Earth by working in harmony with it and placing things in the right place. And they did the opposite, you know, they placed things in places that would prevent flow of energy and that would cause one energy line to crash into another and cause a more harmful energetic. It's a whole other subject, and so if you go away and research, you know, grid work and the Earth's grid structure and ley lines, and there are lots and lots of star seeds that work with this specifically as their mission. There are many grid workers that will be teaching about this, and they will have way more information than me, but that's what the true dragon lines of the Earth grid are, and they were hijacked too. Of course, as we come online into our awareness of the Stargate system, then so too does the Earth come into its awareness of its planetary grid system. We're all connected. Our DNA is intrinsically connected to the planetary grid and the consciousness grid and the galactic grid and the universal grid. They're all structures. They're the same place. As I've said earlier in this transmission, the microcosm and the macrocosm are one from the higher vantage point. So as we awaken, so does the Earth awaken. So as these stargates occur cosmically in a consciousness sense and in an astrological sense, they also occur in a geological sense, which means that actual physical stargates as portals on the Earth start to become activated and can be utilized eventually to a point where you really can transport your physical body from one planet to another or from one part of the planet to another through using an ancient Stargate system that is geological. And that all comes into manifestation with the working of the consciousness Stargate system and the cosmic astrological Stargate system. When you hold awareness of the connection between your inner Stargate, your Stargate technology that's organic and physiological in alignment with the cosmic astrological Stargate, that consciousness then filters into a geological Stargate system. So that's the true dragon lines of the Earth grid. They're all coming online. But what we may know this as is the Schumann resonance. So although the Schumann resonance and the Earth's grid are perceived as two different things, they're actually intrinsically connected, and from a higher vantage point they're the same thing. The Schumann resonance is simply the frequency, the tone, and it's all part of the same structure. And if you see this as a crystal river, as the nine use the metaphor crystal river, then that crystal river runs within you, and it runs within the cosmos. It runs through antimatter consciousness and the spirit worlds and all the dimensions, and it runs through the planets, and it runs through the geological grid of the Earth, and is the Schumann resonance. Now, more information about the Crystal River and the Schumann resonance is given in my most recent book, The Black Box Program and the Rose Gold Flame as Antidote, which is specifically talking about 5G and other black box programs that are there to scramble the signal, if you will, so part of that hijacking, and how you utilize unification with the Schumann resonance through the Rose Gold Flame in order to become and have and access an antidote to these scrambling systems. That's what that book, that transmission from the nine, was all about. So another reason why Krystal Stargate series is an appropriate title for this series, because we're not just talking about the crystalline structures and the DNA field, and we're also talking about the Crystal River, also spelt with a K. So the Crystal Stargate is simply part of the Crystal River. So I will finish this this part of this Crystal Stargate series here, and again, more triggers to go away and work with and see what that comes up for you in your own personal activation. So lots of triggers given as I'm obviously going through the original text here, which is full of these codes and codices and triggers to this amazing information. And that is in itself the key code that can help unlock everything from stored skeletal memory into information and bring that information system online, or at least add to it. It's been online since the 2012 cosmic moment, which is a different time for all of us, really. Many people woke up years ago to this, but are really coming online into the focus of what this means now as we approach the next big Stargate, and then into next year, 2020, which is full of awareness of the Crystal Stargate and the Crystal River, because critical mass has already been reached, and now it accumulates exponentially into 2020. So continuation of energy, and remember that looking at time periods through the Gregorian calendar is just the way we count everything in linear time. In truth, you're already there. You're always in that cosmic moment. You're always in the full realization of this ascension process. And from that point of view, the ascension timeline has manifested, and the ascension has already taken place, and you are fully ascended and fully experiencing the 12-strand DNA template into the 144,000 structure. So remember, all of these different perceptions will then take you into that place of expansion and multidimensionality, into a potential omnipresence and an infinite helix structure, all of those things. So I will be back to continue with this analysis. So thank you very much for listening, and I will see you again.
In this transmission from the white-winged collective consciousness of 9, I, Magenta Pixie, bring forward information specific to utilising the rose gold flame as antidote to 5G, EMFs, chemicals, chemtrails, and similar. The presented template utilises the Schumann resonance, and the technique is alchemical unification. In this book, the 9 discuss synchronicity, discernment skills, and understanding of discordance and disharmony within truth and lightworker communities. They present a workable model of expression, assisting the spiritual explorer in creating a necessary toolkit. This allows the individual to construct a shield, bringing safety, harmony, expansion, and cohesive sovereignty into their own personal reality and their matrix field. I am pleased to present my new short book, The Black Box Program and the Rose Gold Flame as Antidote.